All right, welcome back. So today we are going to get into tool identification, and I would imagine that there's a lot of people who are maybe in this industry and a lot of people who know me and work with us here at Foster's Pumps that would say this is stupid, and I would possibly have once agreed with them. But my goal with this channel, with this audience, is to not only advance people who have advanced and have knowledge, but to bring young minds into this industry. That's super important to me, and I want to do that. So, we're training Tech Ones, we call them, who is just people off the streets, never done pump work at all, pump Tech Ones, and they need to know how to identify tools. So today we're going to get into tool identification, and we are going to just talk about some hand tools, not all of them, definitely not all of them. I grabbed my tool bucket. I'm probably missing a couple tools. Darn it. I hate when that happens, but it does happen. So let's get into it. We're going to just start identifying some tools that we use in the water well industry. And, some people might argue that you don't use a level. Well, if you're not using a level, you're doing poor quality work. A torpedo level. It measures the levelness of any fixture you install. Conduits, you're running up the side of a house to run power to your pump. If you have to run a long water line up the back of a wall in a well house, if you're doing a softener, you got to run some pipes. Levels are important. So we have a level. This is a torpedo level. There are 2-foot levels, 4-foot levels, 6-foot levels. We don't really get into those in our industry too much. They have a magnetic side, so you can magnet it to your metal enclosure when you're installing your VFD or your pump panel or your control box. If you're not using a level, I don't believe you're the best you could be. So some people do have a laser eye, but there's nothing better than a level. So torpedo level, the way it works is you set it on a flat surface, and if the bubble is in the middle of the two lines, then it's level. And also here for a vertical application, and then a 45 application. And I rarely have used that one. I don't really know why they have it, but there's got to be a reason. So torpedo level, very important. Learn that tool. Next would be a flat or a slotted screwdriver, and it's going to have a flat or slotted end. Now this is a larger screwdriver. We use these ones mainly for knocking holes in boxes or just turning big bolts. We've all been there and probably used it as a chisel as well. I like Klein. I'm sure I'll get some hate from someone, but Klein is the way to go for us. We really like it. So this is a larger flat screwdriver. We're just going to grab and go. Needle nose pliers, really good for taking knockouts out of boxes once you open them up, or you can even use this as an awls and kind of hit the corner and then take it and rip it out. Getting a little something out of something, digging something out of a check valve that got lodged in there. There's many little reasons for a needle nose. I would recommend keeping them. I can't give any specific, hey, this is exactly what you use them for, even though I kind of just did, but they're handy. I would have a pair of needle nose pliers, and they're needle nose. That's how you know. The nose is needled, they're pliers. I just use the Ace brand because these aren't really common. I don't use them all the time. Next is our wire strippers. So I like these Milwaukee ones. I used to be all about Klein when I was an electrician at the electrical business we owned years ago. But my guys got me onto these Milwaukee ones, and I really like them. They have the little screw cutters, which we don't use much in our industry, right? We're not setting plug boxes and stuff, but they're there if you need them. Really nice set of cutters, and then you can strip all the way from 8 to like 18. You can even get down into your cable, your shielded cable for your transducers down here. And 8's pretty big, and honestly, you can use these on 2 too. You just kind of hone around it and go around it and strip it. So they got a nice little lock on them. They got a really nice end for grabbing stuff. It's like a plier end. Milwaukee, I like these ones. Wire strippers, definitely a must. All right, nut drivers. We get the Klein set, and they go from large to small. I think they go from 1/2 inch all the way down to like below 1/4 inch. Your 1/4 inch, you use a 5/16 and 3/8 on your pressure switches. Highly recommend having nut drivers. I don't know how you can adjust pressure switches without them. They're just really nice. So having a nut driver, and it's just for nuts. You can put it on there, tighten it or loosen it. Really good for pressure switches. I would imagine everybody that's in the pump industry has these. Moving on, we have wire crimpers. These are very important, and I would recommend only Klein. They have the insulated and non-insulated. They have a wire cutter at the end, and these are really good for your splice kits. You have to use them. Every submersible pump, you're putting a splice kit in if you're doing it right. I've seen it all. We've seen wire nuts down there. Heck, I think we've seen wire nuts that were like in a plastic bottle. Unbelievable stuff you run into in this industry. It's sad that people actually pay for that, but yeah, wire crimpers very important. We crimp those splice kits. We crimp on ends for our pressure switches. Sometimes you got to have them. Wire crimpers, they're just to crimp on little, crimp on ends. So moving on, let's go. Got some pry bars here. I use these a lot, splitting a centrifugal apart, pulling a jet pump apart, working on an end of a motor to change bearings. We use these a lot. You name it. There's all, you got to pry a pump into position when you're working on like a centrifugal, trying to get it back to it where its feet line up. Very important little tools. Phillips. So I'm pulling both of them out here. We have a number 2, which is common, most common, number 1, which is less common. And it's based on experience on which one you use. You're going to get good at it when you use them. You will learn that number 1 is for really small little Phillips screws, and number 2 is generally what you're going to be grabbing. So Phillips screwdriver, it's like an X. My wife calls it a star, I believe. She calls it a star screwdriver. So you tell her it's a Phillips, she tells you it's not, it's a star. Here is a small flat or slotted screwdriver. These are good for like just little flat screws. We use them to not to chisel, but to scrape surfaces. Like if you're putting a new gasket on a centrifugal, these little Kleins have a really sharp edge. They're really good for that. Not really their intended use, but they do work good. So just a small flat screwdriver. Moving on, we have, these are a big set of wire cutters. I don't use these much. My guys really like them. I never did. I have a pair in there because I do need them from time to time. In the electrical industry, we used a Klein set of ratcheting cutters that kicked butt. They'd cut up to like 500 MCM. But anyway, these are good for, up to like number 2, maybe even a little bigger. They get tough to cut, but they're good to cut wire, and the guys like them. So just a big set of wire cutters I recommend having in your tool bucket. Let's see. Crescent wrenches, adjustable end wrenches is what they're really called, right? Crescent is just a manufacturer of them. So they just adjust so you can get on them, on your nut, whatever size it is, metric or standard. I always like that joke, a metric adjustable end wrench. That's no such thing. I guess they're both. But anyway, these are just good if you can't find the right wrench, if you don't have a metric set of wrenches in your tool pouch, or if you're just being lazy and can't find it, whatever, they just adjust. If you're going out, taking a hike and you don't know what it is and you don't want to carry all your tools, you carry this. You'll probably get there and need something else anyway, but it was worth a try, right? So adjustable end wrenches. I like the ratchet wrenches. We've got a closed end ratchet and an open end. This is a 5/8. So we have those in our tool bucket as well. I don't carry any metric wrenches. This is just a combination end wrench, no ratchet. It's got a closed end and an open end. I carry those up to like 3/4 inch. I got a pair of vice grips to hold something. Don't use them too often. They look pretty new, But yeah, nice. You can adjust to what you need and lock down on something to hold it. Very nice. Sharpie. You got to have a Sharpie on you if you're doing work out here. It's just nice to mark a conduit to cut it, mark a water line to cut it, and mark where you want to put a box, a hole in a box to run a hole saw or something. Very nice. Our yellow paint pens, we use these Sharpies. So we use Service Titan now, and we create equipment. And every piece of equipment we make, every pump we go to, we give it a number. And we use these yellow paint pens to give that number. We put a number, we put our Foster sticker, and we create that equipment and store it in Service Titan. So then later we can not go on blind dates. Once we've been to that pump once, we should know everything about it. We do fail sometimes, and sometimes it's not perfect, but it's pretty close to perfect. So I like these paint pens for that, but they're really nice if you got an old piece of something and you're doing like running a warranty on an old pump. You can write the work order number or write warranty on it, or if we've got hundreds of different jobs out here in the yard, you can write the PO number on it, you can write a note on it. These paint pens are nice, and this stuff does not fade. I've tried others, but you got to do the Sharpie mean streak. That's the only one that stays in there for life. So next is Allen wrenches. These are just angled Allen wrenches. I do have the T-handled, so these work good. The T-handleds are the best though, especially when you're tightening connections like in pump panels, in starters, and VFDs. These are really nice to have. I think standard usually covers most of them. There are some metric applications. These ones are just so when you can't get the T-handled in, and I have both standard, and these are just Allen wrenches for an Allen nut, and you have metric. I carry both because you just never know. So Allen wrench is a very important tool to have in your arsenal. Moving on, we're going to keep going around. Like I said, those T-handled Allens, they go all the way to, what, 3/8 in this set. I do carry a claw hammer. This looks like one that your wife might have. I don't use it much. I keep it in there, but I don't need it much. We're not framing homes. We don't really need a claw hammer. I just have it in there because I do odd jobs for my wife and other things like that. So this is really not a good claw hammer to display to an audience who judges. But yeah, claw hammer is not a bad idea to have in there. I would prefer, if I were going to have a hammer, I would prefer a ball peen. Ball peens are good, and I'll explain why. You can cut gaskets with them. You take that rounded head, and if you put gasket material over the volute of a centrifugal, you can turn that rounded head over and go over the holes and cut perfect holes out of that gasket. You can hit the flat end and go around the edge of the volute and cut the gasket. Ball peens are really nice. They're good for hitting in awls to break boxes open. Very, very good little handy tool. Next are our dikes. I love these things. These are the best wire cutters made, in my opinion, made by Klein Tools. These have an angle. They're an angle. There's also, they make straight ones. I like the angle ones because you can get right up against something for like zip ties and stuff. These things are the best plier. I love these things. Dikes, very handy tool. Moving on, water pump pliers. Now, we call them channel locks, right? We all do, but they're adjustable pliers. You can adjust them. In the water industry, they're called water pump pliers. So you're going to call them channel locks if you're at Foster's Pumps. That's what we call them. So if you don't know, now you know. This is channel locks. Moving on. I don't need this in there, but I have it because I do odd jobs sometimes. But if you're, let's just say you got to pull a pump in a pump house and you got to take that roof off. Not a bad idea to have a nail remover and a little pry bar. What are these called? Cat claws or something like that. Not bad to pull little nails out if you need to get into something. Not a bad tool to have. Don't necessarily need it. I wouldn't recommend that you go out and buy one if you're dead broke, but if you got a little bit of money to spend, yeah, go ahead. We'll get to the tester, but next we're going to use the razor knife. Razor knife. I use the Stanley. It's old, it's tried, it's true. I don't like those flip out ones that cut your fingers up when they're going in and out. This thing is just rock solid. You can't mess it up. You got extra blades in it. The Stanley 99E, I would not recommend anything else but this one. When we build these toolkits for our employees, this is what they get. And what you're seeing is what they get. We try to build toolkits for all of our employees. After Tech, in between Tech 1 and Tech 2, as they advance, they get a toolkit. They are ours. We buy them for them. We used to make them buy them, but I don't think that's the right thing to do. And then we can kind of monitor it and get them the tools that we believe they need. So anyway, razor knife. Very, very good little tool. Stripping subcable, stripping big wire, cutting tape as you pull the pump. There's a million ways to use this in the pump industry. I would keep it in my pocket if I were pulling pumps all day, but that's unfortunately not my job anymore. I miss it. I really do. The office work can really just beat you up. So some days, many days, I wish I were out there. Now those freezing cold days, I'm happy to be in here, but otherwise I don't. Files, we've got a round file, half round. We've got a flat file, and we should have a round file in there. Yeah, oh, the triangular file. I used to have a round somewhere. So these flat ones are nice for cleaning contacts on a pump panel, reaming out a hole that is too small. I've used the triangular file to straighten out threads on a bolt, or even like on a shaft. We don't like to do that. We have lathes here and we have everything we need to correctly machine shafts, but you get in a pinch and your machinist is gone and you got a shaft that's messed up, and you got to get your triangular file in there and clean out a thread. It's definitely doable, definitely usable. I think we're coming close to the end of it. I don't see much more. Hey, this is a big one. Safety glasses. You guys should all have safety glasses and be using them. They don't sell eyes down at the hardware store. I'm telling you, they don't. So use your safety glasses everywhere you can. Use your PPE. This isn't a topic on PPE, so I'm not going to get too far into it, but definitely keep a pair of safety glasses, gloves in your tool buckets, on your trucks, in your pockets, wherever, and use them. Last but not least, the Fluke 376 FC. This is the baby right here. This is the tool to use. I don't care what anybody says, I'll take it to my grave. If you're a pump man, you should have this one. Reason why, it does all we need it to do. You got volts AC, so if you turn it here, you got volts AC. You got a light at night. You need light. You got to hold it for 2 seconds, Adam, like it says. So you're working at night. You got a min and max button. You got inrush, that's for amps. You go to volts AC, millivolts. Right here, if you hit the second button, you can check capacitors. Very cool for control boxes. So if you're on ohms and you hit the second button, you're checking capacitors. Ohms normally, you can check for continuity. You test it, it's gonna beep. I think it gives you numbers up to like 30. No, higher than that. Excuse me, oh, it's going up into the 400s. This one's very, very advanced. I'm not sure what the threshold is on there. Amps, AC, and hertz. So all of the yellow, if you hit the yellow button, it'll second it. So now hertz, you can check hertz, and I believe that's through the amp meter. So you put your wire through this and it'll tell you the hertz. When you're running numbers on a VFD driven system, it's good to have hertz. I know you can always read the screen, but say you're doing like a flow test and it's on a VFD. You got to look at your amps and do all this, and then you got to go back in and find a way to read hertz on that VFD. And if you're not familiar with navigation on that VFD, it can be a pain in the butt, but not with this. Clap it on your wires and it's going to tell you the hertz. Also, you can look at the hertz incoming. I've never had an issue with bad hertz coming in from a utility provider, but that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. So amps DC, don't really need that. And then hertz over here in the iFlex, there's a big deal you can put around, like a big set of big wires to get a big amp reading. Once more, you go to amps AC and you can do min, max amps, min amps, max, min, or average. That's really cool. You know, you got a pump that's pulling high amps and tripping out every once in a while. You can put it on amps. You can go to max and you can just let it run. Say, hey, customer, go run your sprinklers. Let's walk around. Let's waste some, sit in the truck, do your work order, because this thing it's not pulling high amps. Well, put it in there. You've tested for your ground circuitry already. There's no resistance to ground on your windings, no ground fault. You've got good windings. It's all good. It's pulling good amps, new control box, everything's good. You put it on max amps, you go do your work order, you come back and it's tripped out and you realize, hey, that pump could only pull 12 amps now, and then here it pulled 14. Well, I don't recommend pulling it just yet, but you found the problem. It's pulling high amps at times. Now you got to figure out, is it incoming power or is it the pump? Bearings going out, something going on with the impellers, diffusers, the bearings in that pump. So good little tool to have. I think this is the best one in my opinion. You got a hold button here on the side, so if you're doing amps and you want to hold it, you can. Hold just means it'll stay, You got a save button there. You can save stuff. I don't use a lot of these features, but anyway, this is a good little tester. Really good. This is what we buy all of our employees here. They don't use any other tester, and I won't allow it because I've seen guys use testers and put it on ohms and go to and you know, ohm out something and hit volts on accident, and it blows the tester up. These have shunts in them. They have fuses in them. This is a good tester, and I think it saves lives. Remember, always test your power before touching it. It's a good idea. All right, everybody, we'll have a blessed afternoon. I hope this helps. This is some introductory to some of the tools we use in the water well industry. Not all of them, definitely not. But if you're a newbie, if you're learning, take notes. Remember these tools, because when you're out working with your technician, your Tech 2 or Tech 3, your number one job is to serve them, to get them that tool. And if you don't know what a razor knife is when they ask, or what a pair of channel locks are, or what a flat screwdriver is, you're not going to make it, man. You've got to be able to know these parts, know these tools, so you can help assist. Remember, you don't know it all. You know, we've all got a lot to learn, but if you can just assist in grabbing a flat screwdriver when they ask, grabbing a torpedo level when they ask, hey, get me the Flute 376. You know, that's huge. When a guy's out there using all of his brain power and dealing with that customer, and it's hot, it's freezing, extreme conditions, and you can assist by getting them the tools they need, save them a couple minutes, keep their brain focused, that's huge, guys. That's huge. Be blessed.